Welcome back to our channel, ladies and gentlemen. I want to say thank you very much for your continued support to this channel, and in case you are watching for the first time, allow me to request you to hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell. This is the best support that you can give us. President William Samoei Ruto, just a day after winding up the Africa Climate Summit, jetted out of the country to attend another food summit in Tanzania. You all know that it has been a very busy week for President William Ruto, hosting more than a dozen heads of states at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, the KICC. And in that meeting, the African heads of states urged the major polluters, the global polluters, USA, China, Japan, and all those, Korea, to ensure that they reduce carbon emission, and they really pleaded that they must be given money because Africa has always suffered. It is a victim for actions that they contribute very little. Many experts have criticized the just concluded summit, and of course they criticize meetings that are being held by African heads of state. They say that many times the heads of states in Africa would converge in many colorful meetings, and what happens there are simply talks, great talks, but there are no actions. For example, I remember when William Ruto was hosting other heads of states, and of course the UN Secretary General was there, the African Union Commission Chair Musa Faki was there, several civil rights activists continue to demonstrate, and they were saying, let us have very little talk and much action, because they feel that in every year or whenever we have climatic summits, there are a lot of talks, and major polluters will be promising Africans certain amount of money, yet the realization of the talks, the actualization of their resolutions are nowhere to be seen. And so when William Ruto jetted outside the country, Hussein Mohammed is in his communication said that President William Ruto, among other heads of state and government, attending the 13th Africa Food System Summit in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, today to discuss crucial issues of food security. Just get that, they're discussing food security, food sustainability, and innovation in the agricultural sector. Many are asking whether all these summits are beneficial to us. Some people are even saying that William Ruto is a traveling president. He's busy attending summits and meetings and all that, and they are questioning whether all these meetings have got any benefits that accrue out of them, or they're just tantamount to a mere wastage of taxpayers' money. But that is a story for another day. My question, or my main concern about the meeting that was held, it was the 13th Africa Food System Summit. And the other attendees are experts and stakeholders that will be giving keynote speeches. And I remember it's communicated that William Ruto was not there alone. Jeff Koinange, citizen journalist, will be there. They were selected as guest speakers, and of course the chairperson of the Council of Governors, Madam Anne Waiguru, who also doubles up as Kirinyaga governor, was also scheduled to give a keynote speech there. But there is only one thing there's one thing that disturbs me. When we talk about food security, sustainability, and innovation in the Kenyan context, I find it fallacious and a lot of very hypocritical, because food security, sustainability, and innovation in the African context, and of course in the Kenyan context, requires political goodwill. I'm saying it requires political goodwill because we are talking about food security in a situation where, for example, recently we were shocked that Russia donated some bags of fertilizer to the Kenyan farmers. But then it turned out that under the guise of fertilizer subsidy, the government decided to give it out to farmers at a fee. And then, so when we see William Ruto attending a summit to discuss food sustainability, food and innovation, I mean, it disturbs me, because this is the kind of political goodwill that I'm talking about. When a government gets something as a donation free, in my humble submission, I feel that it should also be given to the farmers free of charge. And thus I'm saying that there isn't much political goodwill, if you ask me. Other experts are saying that William Ruto, in his bottom-up economic model, did not think beyond giving out fertilizers to our farmers, because food sustainability has got no shortcut. People have to roll their sleeves and get to work. But even as they do that, there must be an environment that is created for them. My mind is drawn to a scandal, a near scandal, when the government had an agreement with, I think it was Malawi, that they were supposed to grow maize there, and then it was going to be imported to Kenya. Later it was found out that it was a scandal in the making, and Malawi distanced itself from it. With all this intertwined drama in the agricultural sector, I find it very hypocritical that our nation is engaging in talks about food security, because we need to actualize what we have. William Ruto and his administration must also fight cartels in the agricultural sector. We have heard the deputy president himself saying that there are cartels in the coffee and tea industry. And of course, even if you talk about the sugar industry and the pyrethrum, we have cartels. Cartels that are so dangerous, if you ask me, that it can only take the efforts of the president and the deputy president themselves to fight these cartels, because cartels will always hit back if you're not careful. If they are left out, then we can as well forget about food security and sustainability, and even the innovation in the agricultural sector. So some of these things must be taken into consideration, and I summarize them under political goodwill, because without this, then we cannot move forward. I was saying that the bottom-up economic model started and ended with giving out fertilizers and maybe seeds. And I remember certain experts were asking that, does William Ruto realize that the cost of living is not only based on fertilizer? There are other things, school fees and all that. So they should also try and think beyond what they're doing, maybe irrigation. When we hear corruption that is dwindling, corruption that is going around when we want to erect, some boreholes, you hear that some money has been lost and all that. Today we are still talking about Kimwarer and Aror Dam, because one of the things that we must actualize is to move away from depending on rain water for agriculture. We need to get to irrigation. We have several parts of the country that are always flooded. Ahero, for example, if you go there during the rainy season, you'll realize that we have water overflowing. River banks are broken, but we can cut this water to help us with the irrigation. But when we channel money to our dams, then you realize that money is being stolen. We were really promised quite a lot of them, and we need to fight cartels and fight corruption at the same time if we have to actualize food security and food sustainability. Our collapsed industries must be resuscitated. The sugar industry is in limbo. It is in ICU. I heard the president the other day trying to give a warning to the Rai family that mambo ni matatu, wahame Kenya, nitawapeleka binguni, nitawapeleka jela. Anyone who is serious in fighting corruption will not talk much. Those who fight corruption will sit down and allow independent institutions to work. And those independent institutions like the Anti-Corruption Commission, our courts, must be up to the task to ensure that hawa mabwenyenye are not spared. But when you see leaders talking in public rallies and saying mambo ni matatu, tutafanya hivi, I can assure you that they will do nothing. People who want to work and want to fight corruption will not talk much. And it has to start with the UDA government, the KK government. As long as we still have government officials who engage in corruption, as long as we still have this administration going to jail under the guise of a presidential pardon, and pardoning people who engaged in corrupt deeds and they were jailed, then corruption will not be fought. So corruption and resuscitation of our collapsed food industry go together. The sugar belt, if you talk to anybody from the sugar belt, Moroni, Soni, Chemelil, Kabras, Mumias, I know, and I want to commend the efforts that are geared towards reviving. But I'm afraid until I see the efforts being actualized, I'm not convinced. Because we might just see these efforts with vested interest. Maybe cartels are going to be removed, and then another cartel will be created. So what happens? We are in a new dispensation. Someone might just decide that we are now kicking away Uhuru cartels, and then we have Ruto cartels. Or someone might just decide that now we want the cartels to work with us. And so until we see them, the plans actualized, I cannot trust them. So the collapsed industry, the sugar, pyrethrum, all those food industries must be supported so that they are resuscitated if we have to fill our food basket. And of course, I remember during the Moi era, we had things like agricultural extension services. I used to see people wanakuja hapo na motorbike, wanakuelimisha hapo, unawaelezea hapa kuna stock bora, kuna hii dudu inasumbua. They will tell you what to do. They'll be teaching you about mulching, wanawaambia watu kwa villages, usichome, ukitoa mahindi, that will form part of the mbolea. We need to revive such kind of agricultural extension services and others. In this, ladies and gentlemen, I only want to submit to you that as he flies outside the country and they want to convene to talk about food security, charity begins at home, and he must ensure that he supports our farmers. We cannot have maybe sugar and maize being imported into the country, yet our farmers have got surplus in their baskets. Let us stop talking too much and actualize some of these principles. Someone once said that the problem in Kenya is not that we don't have a constitution. We have a very good constitution, but its implementation is our problem. Food security and sustainability and innovation in the agricultural sector is something that needs political goodwill. Let me end by saying this. Let us ensure that even in the courses that are being taught in our universities are practical courses that will help in innovation. Let us support the agricultural courses in our universities and colleges, our tertiary colleges, to ensure that even as our students graduate, we don't have half-baked graduates. We have people who can sit down and actualize innovation and ensure that agriculture, which is the backbone of our nation, can improve and can go to the highest levels.